Harshita, only if you look at the bright side. Only if you look at the bright side, Toastmaster Harshita.
It was the 7th of March 2014. An excited miniature me ran frantically to the kitchen when my mom told me that my brother's making sambar for the first time. Later, when we all sat down for lunch, my dad, having tried the sambar, took a moment to gather his thoughts and turned towards my brother and said, "I'm extremely proud that you tried something new. But water tastes better than the sambar." To which my brother instantly replied, "Well, it's all Harshi's fault." And I was perplexed to the brim. How could I possibly ruin a dish I didn't even make? To which my brother replied, "Well, you tried to smell the sambar and you inhaled all the aroma units from it, ultimately rendering it tasteless." Sure, the fact that my brother forgot to add salt didn't ruin the sambar, but me being alive and trying to breathe ruined it. And that was one of many classic incidences where my brother conveniently pushed the blame onto me. Turns out, that was also the day I refused to get my brother a glass of water, which he rubs in my face. Every now and then I ask him even for the smallest of favors. Just when I thought this couldn't possibly get any worse, this unwritten Indian father-daughter and mother-son dynamic proved me wrong. My dad being swamped with work most of the time and my mom pretty much ruling the house, my brother won every argument, and as a punishment, I had to help my mom with all the household chores. I used to wait patiently for my share of revenge, and when my dad finally got home, I used to sit by his side and explain point to point why it was not my fault that the TV remote broke with such precision. Even parliamentary sessions wouldn't stand a chance. But my dad, being tired and exhausted from all the day's work, would simply just go to my brother's room and tells him not to trouble me anymore. I used to think to myself, me helping with the chores for 1 hour and my brother being mildly scolded for 10 seconds definitely balances the score, right? At about age 7, I was pretty convinced that my brother knew witchcraft. Because every time I asked for a new bicycle, magically my brother wound up getting a brand new one and I was stuck with his old rusty cycle. Now, having shared all of my bitter experiences, I'm pretty sure every one of you must have come to know that having a sibling is the worst thing ever. I wouldn't be the way I am if not for him. Now that I think about it, that is true. I wouldn't have turned out the way I did if not for him. I wouldn't be standing here giving the speech if not for him. Literally. Because he's the one who advised me to join Toastmasters. I still remember the day of the inductions. I was shivering from head to toe and I called my brother and I told him, "I can't do this. This is not my cup of tea." To which my brother replied, "Now go give your induction speech or else I'll change the Netflix password." Now that threat really got to me and I did go for the inductions that day. As I think deeper, I'm realizing that my brother does care for me. It's just that I chose to remember all the transient silly fights over the timeless memories those moments hold. Every time we go back and forth between caring for each other and detesting one another, I'm reminded that every force on earth has its own duality. But which side we choose to look at makes all the difference in the world. I recently read a fable about a professor who told his students to write an essay about a piece of paper, which was completely plain except for a small black spot at the center of the page. Now, every student focused only on that black spot and wrote pages and pages about it, completely disregarding the rest of the white space available. More often than not, even we do the same thing in real life. We subconsciously focus and recall only the bad memories, that is the black spots of our lives, that we take all the happy moments for granted. We all can get easily carried away, just the way I did, when I chose to remember only the less desirable parts about having a sibling, that I completely forgot how convenient and fun it is to have someone whom I can irritate just for the fun of it, and whom I can call whenever I can't afford a therapist. Remember, Toastmasters, we always have two choices ahead of us. We can either choose to complain that the rose bushes have thorns, or we can choose to rejoice that amongst those thorns bloom beautiful roses. The grass always seems greener on the other side, only because we forget to nurture and look after our side. I've seen people people with a negative mindset spiral into pits of resentment, anxiety, disgust, and whatnot. So it's high time we all take our eyes away from the black spot and focus on the white space which we get to define the way we want to. So the next time any of you encounter a spill of hatred, try to grow a branch of love. Whenever life throws an obstacle your way, think of it as yet another opportunity to pick yourself up and grow as a person. For every yin of negativity, overcome it with yang of positivity. Every single one of us has the capability to change the trajectory of our lives. So choose to look at the bright side and choose to define your own happiness. Only if you look at the bright side that you'll realize having a sibling isn't that bad after all. And only if you look at the bright side that you'll realize you can finally find happiness. Thank you. Over to the contest master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Harshita. Contestant number 1, Toastmaster Puneet Bagricha. Toastmaster Puneet Bagricha, contestant number 1.
They say behind every successful man there is a woman. Today we hear the otherwise. Behind every successful sister there is a brother who is supporting. Contest master and my target speaker. What I loved in your speech is the way you narrated your story. I will be evaluating your speech on these 5 parameters, namely content, character, core, message, pace, and pause. With respect to the content, what I loved was the way in which you kept the story simple. I love the way in which you narrated throughout and looking at the bright side, right from the conflict which you had with your brother, and even at the end, looking at the bright side as to how he has been the pillar of your support. Great job done. Great job on that. What I also appreciate is a descriptive choice of words and even subtle humor as well. It seems humor is like an armor and it worked very well in your speech. Water tasting better than sambar, changing Netflix password, rusty bicycle, and whatnot. Your verbalization of these words evoked vivid imagery. I was able to visualize, which in turn vitalized your entire speech as well. Now, with respect to characters were simple. It was predominantly your own family. So that was a great way for me to understand, and I was able to hook till the end of the story. And last but not the least, the core message. Only when we look at the bright side is when we find true happiness. Great job done. Now there are 3 kinds of speeches. One which you practice, one which you deliver, and one which you wish you could have delivered. How do you move from second to third? No doubt you were impressive with your content. How can you be more expressive with your delivery? Which brings out to my 2 recommendations, which is pace and pause. Typically, a speaker tends to speak a lot more faster because he or she has a lot more content to say, and I found that in your speech as well. After all, you also had easily more than 30 seconds at your disposal to inculcate pauses and, more importantly, slowing at the most important moments of your speech. Just to narrate one incident, when you said this anchoring story about that professor and the white dot, a black dot on that white paper, I feel you could have slowed down a bit to give us the message out there. And more importantly, when you said this roses analogy, they have 2 choices. Either we complain that there are a lot of thorns in the roses, or during the thorns bloom roses. You could have paused there for a while for me to understand and even slow down a bit so that I, as a person, can understand what you have said. They say the great speeches are formed between the words. And even at the message, I would have really loved if you would have paused for 3 seconds and then giving out your message. But only when we look at the bright side is when we find true happiness. To summarize my evaluation, I love the content, character, and the core message which you gave. I love the vivid choice of words which you have presented, descriptive choice of words. Appreciate your subtle humor, which work as an armor in your speech. Work on pace and pause to enhance your speech to the next level. Thank you for sharing this beautiful story of brother and sister. This is something which I'm going to remember for a long time. Back to Contest Master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Puneet. Let's have a minute of silence for judges to fill out the ballots. Timer